Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Ginny Luby, and we're rolling through the month of November, and we'll have just one more month before I'm excited for already thinking ahead to 2024 and all the fabulous women that I'll get to talk to. But I am really excited because every week I have a great guest, and this week is no different. I am so excited to get into this conversation. It is serious, we'll say, but there's definitely going to be hope that we're going to share. And hopefully, whether it's you or someone can benefit from this conversation and help others. So this week, my guest is Katie Spencer. And, if you ever do listen, the fact that I like to say how I know people because I think it is so important that we are open to meeting people and open to understanding that you never know how when you connect with someone they're going to show up in your life, how you could help them or vice versa. And I think it's just so important that we do that, building our network and just being open. So Katie and I met through NAMI. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I have been working locally here in Scranton with NAMI for several years with my laughter yoga on and off. I have met Marie Onakevich years ago and we worked together. And now I'm actually working with Marie for the next year in the capacity of marketing communications. And it's through that role that I actually met a staff member of NAMI Northeast PA region, and it's Katie. And Katie's shares her story in our own voice program that is offered by NAMI Northeast Region PA, and it's a compelling story about her own experiences with depression. And she has so many great things to say about how she got through and how she's offering help and hope with her support group that she helps people locally here with. But she's going to tell us about so much more than that. And it's just a really important conversation that we have and we talk about. So, welcome and thank you so much for joining me, Katie.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. And when I saw your story in our own voice, I appreciated your transparency, your like your vulnerability that you're sharing. A lot of people, it's hard for people to open up like that, and you did that, which I think is so important. And before we get to your story, I always like to ask my guests, just because I mean I know you through NAMI just a little bit, but I don't know a lot about you. So just for our listeners' sake, do you want to share just a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I'm from Dunmore, Pennsylvania. So right here in Northeast PA, I'm a I'm a mom of two beautiful children, and I have my husband Matt. I worked in mental health for over a decade now. My major was actually in journalism, so life steered me a different direction, but I still love to write. I come from a large Irish Catholic family and just love living here in Northeast PA.
A large Irish Catholic family, which I'm sure you could write all about that, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Gives you some material for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, we did talk about that too. So in the future, I'll have to have you back because I know you're writing, and I can't wait to see how that turns out, what you're working on. But let's talk about your story and what you said you shifted. And so you were, I think that happens with a lot of people. They take, they major in something in college, and maybe they work in that field, maybe they don't, and then life kind of puts something, either in your way or lightens up your life to make you go in a different direction. So for you, you had some personal experience with depression, and now you've been working in the mental illness or mental health field for a while. Should you share a little bit so our listeners understand what your experience has been with depression? What was your own experience?
So that I feel like everyone evolves and everyone has different parts of their story, and I'm no different. I've lived with depression and anxiety since I diagnosed since I was 17 years old. Battled a lot throughout college and my early 20s. Um, I found that I really loved helping people. So I became a certified peer specialist, which what that is someone with lived experience goes through training and kind of walks beside someone as they learn to navigate life with the mental health condition. So and I that's kind of how I got my foot into mental health. Throughout my you know life, things evolved. I got married, and I was very like in what I would call like long-term recovery. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with my first child that depression kind of roared its ugly head again. And it kind of threw me backwards quite a bit. Um, and that's kind of when I, became very passionate about maternal mental health, which is where a lot of my focus is now.
Yeah, and it's hard for people, and I think thankfully I think we're getting better. I hope we're getting better as far as people talking more, sharing more, and people not judging as much, although it is still obviously happening. When women are pregnant, it's thought to be such a time of joy, obviously change and some nerves, especially for first moms. How is that for you, your experience? So here you're going through this, which is a huge change anyway in your body, in your life, and you're experiencing depression. How was that? Did you feel you could open up and talk about it, or how was that for you?
So part of my job is I openly share that I have like depression and anxiety. And when I was first pregnant with my daughter, I could not share. I had a really, really hard time accepting that I was depressed and honestly accepting that I was pregnant. It was a planned pregnancy, but it was just such a hard time in my life that I was in denial. But I had a really, really hard time sharing. I didn't talk about it for a very, very long time. I didn't open up to my therapist or my psychiatrist until I was about 12 weeks pregnant. And at that point, I had been missing work. I had lost close to 40 pounds at that point. I wasn't eating. I had severe morning sickness. I'd gone off my meds when I found out I was pregnant with the help of my psychiatrist and OB. But it was really, really challenging. I started getting extreme intrusive thoughts, thoughts about hurting myself. And I really just really, really struggled to ask for help. And it really was a hard thing for me to say that, I wanted this pregnancy and then to just really just not want to be alive anymore.
And I'm sure this is where I think, and I've heard different people say things, so that's what I'm basing it on. Sometimes people can't understand it. And I mean, it's not for us to try to understand maybe why this happens, but just to be able to help people and say that, we're here for them and there is, resources and support. Some might say, well, jeepers, how does someone experience depression when it's such a joyful thing and it's a wanted pregnancy? But it's not just that simple, right? It's not that easy.
No, no, it's definitely not. I mean, there's so many different elements to it. I mean, and hormones play a huge part of it, and your
Mhm.
hormones are constantly shifting when you're pregnant. There's many women who have never experienced depression or anxiety or any type of mental health condition that start to experience that during pregnancy, and it really came out of nowhere and they don't really know how to navigate that. I was fortunate in my case that I knew the mental health system, so I knew where to go for help, but it was still, I felt a lot of shame because it is supposed to be that joyful time. And I really did not feel joy at all. My husband would try to talk to me about the nursery. I would break down. I wouldn't, I only told a handful of people that I was pregnant and didn't actually announce my pregnancy until I was after 20 weeks pregnant. And I didn't look pregnant. I lost a lot of weight. And it was just a really, really challenging time. And I think it's just more common than what people realize. And I think a lot of women go through it in silence because there's so much stigma surrounding it. I think we've made a lot of headway in regards to mental health and stigma, but I think there's so much more to be done regarding like maternal mental health and stigma.
Yeah. And thanks to you, to people like you who are sharing it. So someone out there listening might go, okay, I'm not alone, and give them a little bit of hope. So as far as, and for you, thankfully, you could tell us that you got through it and you're okay. And then you went on and you had a second child. So did your experience with having your second child differ, and how did that differ?
Okay, so I feel like so to give you a little bit more background on my first pregnancy, what really helped me was my OBGYN and my psychiatrist speaking to each other and agreeing that it was healthier for the baby and for me to be on medication. So I did go back on a low dose of an antidepressant that kind of got me through my pregnancy. And I was able to, announce my pregnancy, admit that I was pregnant, not losing weight anymore. I did have postpartum anxiety. I didn't have postpartum depression with my first, but I did have a lot of anxiety that really affected how I lived my life, where I went, who held my daughter, who didn't, just really a lot of intrusive thoughts during that time as well, just very anxious. But I got through that as well. And then with the birth of with getting pregnant with my second son, my husband and I and my doctors decided that I would stay on medication that was safe to take during pregnancy. That was a choice that we felt was in the best interest of me and my son. So that was one thing. And I did have a little bit of anxiety during that pregnancy. And I say that I contribute a lot of that to the fact that I had a miscarriage prior to my son. So I think I was on edge of something was going to happen. But it was really still hard for me to like plan the nursery, do different things like that, because I think I was so afraid of losing the pregnancy. My son was born March of 2020. I had, everyone has, unique birth experiences. I happened to, my mother, God bless her, she battled Alzheimer's disease for just under 10 years, and she passed away March 11th of 2020. And I was 39 weeks pregnant. And then I gave birth to my son on March 12th, 24 hours later, in March of 2020. So, and then COVID happened, and it was just, this whirlwind. My husband jokes and my family jokes that like I was, just oblivious to COVID, but I think my mind couldn't process anymore. I had, the grief of my mom. I had, the birth of my son. So it was really, really, I just couldn't process COVID for a little while. And then it was like a week after being home, and I was like, turned on the news and I was like, what is happening in the world? So that kind of, the anxiety spiked. Depression kind of really started within a week of, postpartum, having, suicidal thoughts, a lot of rage with my son, difficulty managing a toddler who no longer could be, go to preschool anymore because everything was shut down, and trying to just navigate motherhood and navigate life without my mom as well. So, and not being able to see close family and friends at that time because of COVID. It was very difficult, very challenging. And I don't know how, sometimes I wonder how I got through that, but I know I had a lot of support from family and friends. And it took me a while to reach out for help again. And I was dismissed a little bit, thinking that it was like grief from my mom, or, a mixture of COVID. But, finally at 4 months postpartum, my rage was severe. I had, I was thinking about suicide on a, daily basis. So I had reached out for more specialized support. So I started seeing someone with who's certified in perinatal mental health, and that really, really helped my recovery.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you, Katie, for sharing that, because hearing it, to be honest, I don't know how you got, like, that's a lot. I mean, my goodness, like the relationship we have with our parents. I mean, sometimes people don't, but I mean, to be close, to lose your mother and to give birth and to be dealing with the depression that you had a history of, and then COVID, like, could one more thing happen? And I mean, like, God love you. Like, that is so much. And then dealing with COVID, with things being shut down, were you able to do this therapy like on Zoom, or how? Because I know a lot of therapists were not meeting, people in person, and here's a time when you really needed someone. How were you able to navigate that with COVID?
So I was fortunate. I found a therapist who was willing to see me face to face. We wore masks, and it was very beneficial because I benefited more from face to face. I had a therapist prior to that, and Zoom just wasn't working. And so it was just really, really challenging. I wasn't seeing people. I remember the one conversation with my psychiatrist. She's like, just go shopping. I'm like, it's COVID. I'm not going shopping. She's like, go for a drive. I'm like, but I just really wanted to like escape. I had a love-hate relationship with my son because he looks like my mom. He has my mom's eyes. So it was either I was embracing him or like get him away from me. So it was just it was really, really challenging, but having face-to-face therapy really helped me, because I benefit from face-to-face. I know telehealth is an amazing, amazing resource, and I still use it sometimes, but I benefit more from face-to-face. So I was very fortunate to find a therapist who was willing to see me.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I won't go down that road with healthcare is very challenging because getting the right person, you know, finding the right therapist, it's, you know, whether for you, thankfully it's specialized, but, you know, whether you have bipolar or whatever you have, finding that right person that you connect with and that you feel comfortable with and that you feel like you're getting better with or getting help with. And so you know, it's an important thing. Like you said, telehealth is great, but that's not for everyone, you know. So I'm so glad you were able to get the right experience and the right help. And along those lines, so right now, so you had your second child, you got through it, thank God, everything. So how have you been since? I mean, I know it's been a while, a couple of years now have passed. So how are you doing now?
Well, I still have depression and anxiety. Part of my recovery is taking medication every day. I still see my therapist pretty much weekly. That reg like um, that works for me. I know some people who go to a therapist once a month or only see their psychiatrist every 3 months, or I choose to see them more regularly because I just think it keeps me in check. Like everybody, I have my good and bad days. My kids are, the light of my lives. They're thriving. My son's 3.5 at this point. My daughter's 7, and they're both doing really, really well. They're happy kids, which makes life a lot easier. And I just think I also benefit from helping others. I enjoy helping others. And so the reason I share my story is so other women know they're not alone, because I felt very, very alone when I was pregnant. I felt alone in the postpartum period. Um, and so I just think, if I'm going through it, and even, going through the loss of my mom and my son, even during that very immediate time, I was like, there's a reason I'm going through this. I kind of had that belief. I'm like, something there's a reason. And I truly believe that, sharing stories saves lives. And so that's why I share mine.
Yeah. And I mean, so, and there's a couple different things. Like you said, initially they thought it was grief, right? Over your mom, but that's a real thing too. I mean, people need to talk to someone about their grief as well. I mean, that just compounds whatever else is going on, you know? So yeah, that's a lot. I'm glad that you've sorted through it and you bring up what I want to ask you about is which you like to help other women going through this. So let's talk a little bit about what is available, what help is available so that women know. And I know people could do a Google search and everything, but I'd love for them to hear it from you because you're someone that is out there with the support groups. You see these women who are grateful for the help and who really need the help and know that they can talk to someone like you who's been where they've been. So let's talk a little bit about what help is available.
Sure. So right here in Northeast PA, NAMI, I facilitate a Mama Bear support group. We meet once a week. We have different options on how we meet. The first and third Tuesday at 7 p.m. we meet via Zoom. So you don't have to be right here in Northeast PA. We've had people from Colorado join us. So we have that support group, and then we meet on the second and fourth Tuesday at the Carbondale Public Library at 11:30 a.m. And we're able to connect and to support each other through that. So I welcome anyone who would like to join us. Please feel free to reach out to NAMI, and we'd be happy to have you.
And so these could be women who are experiencing anxiety, depression while pregnant, but also postpartum as well.
Correct. Correct. So, and it's not limited to depression or anxiety. It's any mental health concern or really just any symptoms. You don't necessarily need to be diagnosed to be struggling. So, if you just need some extra support, whether you're pregnant or postpartum, and whether sometimes I found that navigating my 7-year-old is more challenging than navigating the postpartum period. So if you just need support as a mom, and you have your kids are 1 and 3 or whatever, please feel free to reach out and speak with us.
That's an important point, because you don't need to be diagnosed, because it's like if you're struggling, period, hard stop, right? You're struggling and you want to have that support and that even fellowship, that's absolutely, that it's there. So that's called the Mama Bears, and I will put that in the show notes. And of course, I will put a link to NAMI but wherever you're located throughout the country, NAMI is a national organization, National Alliance on Mental Illness. So there are support groups everywhere. They might vary a little bit from place to place based on the different affiliates, but they're definitely out there. And before I hit the record button, you had talked about, you also know about some national programs or help that people can look into. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Postpartum Support International is an amazing resource. They offer a variety of different support groups. They have some specialized support groups for multiples or people who experience loss. They have, you know, and they're offered at so many different times because they are international. They're all online, and they just have, it's just really, really helpful to know that it's that you could find a support group that works for you.
That's great. And not everybody's the same, obviously. Like you said, everyone is going to be a little different. So, but I think the key is, if you are struggling and you feel alone, know that you're not, and reach out, because even a group that you might not feel it's a perfect fit, at least you'll have some support and help. And then maybe you'll find another one, but reach out. Don't be alone, because you're not. Yeah, that's important. So let me ask you now, I mean, like you said, every day looks a little different. What does Describe for us, what's like a joyful day for you? What's a day where you're like, okay, this is a really good day?
Any day, I feel like I could always smile at least once a day, because of my kid, a minimum once a day, or laugh because of my kids, because they're so full of joy. So that gives me a lot of joy. I try to always find something to be grateful for. We have a routine at bedtime with my kids of, what are you thankful for? What was your favorite part of the day? And like, what are you looking forward to? And we find that it's really nice to reflect, because even on the really hard days, you find something to be grateful for, whether it's, the clouds in the sky, or, just that you really enjoyed, your dinner, something. And I think, just a day that, is filled with family and friends and just meaning. I find my job very meaningful, which I think is very beneficial to me in my wellness.
That's great. And I love that practice that you're doing with your children. I think I just recorded for Thanksgiving an episode about gratitude. And, the research, as I had said in that episode, shows that it's good for us to be grateful, to practice gratitude. And I think teaching your children that at a young age is so important. You make a great point, even on the bad days, reflecting on, and you mentioned a good meal. I've reflected in my journal or my gratitude when I've done it through the years. Had a great cup of coffee this morning. And that might seem silly, but there are mornings where I'll drink it and I'll go, oh, this doesn't taste so good. And there are mornings I'm like, now that's a good cup of coffee, because life is full of the little moments. And those little moments sometimes can tip us in either direction. And so I think that's so important when we can, take a look and appreciate those things. That's a great practice. Yeah. So going forward, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would want to share? I think it is key that people know they're not alone, especially, and your passion is with maternal wellness and mental health, letting people know that they're not alone. There is help out there. But what else would in your final thoughts here, what messages would you want to share that we didn't really touch on?
Well, I would just say that, life is bumpy, and, different parts of life are harder than others, but I mean, 1 in 5 women go through a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. So you're definitely not alone. It's more common, and the more we talk about it, the more we could break the stigma surrounding it. And I would just like to say, lean on your supports. Know that you're not alone. Lean on family. Lean on the support groups. Lean on you will get through it. There's better days ahead. As cliche as that sounds, I didn't feel like there were better days ahead for me, but here I am, 3.5 years after my son was born. And some days are harder than others, but you plug through and just really just keep on do the reflection. Gratitude is a great practice that I really benefit from. And I just think, really just lean into your supports, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, that's key. And I should say, and I'll put this in the show notes too, obviously, if you're in a really dark place, 988 is an important number to know. You can always call or text the Lifeline suicide hotline. That is something for anyone to use, not just, whatever you're going through. But remember that if you're in a really dark place and you need immediate help, remember 988. But otherwise, know that there's support groups, and know that, I listened to a podcast called The Happiness Lab, and there's some really interesting episodes. And one that was interesting that I listened to was about the value of just reaching out to someone and saying something. It was about, sometimes we get caught up in we don't have the perfect words for people, and that stops us from talking to people, and it shouldn't. And don't, especially if you think something's going on, a friend, a family member who could use the help, reach out to them and don't get caught up in, well, I don't know what to say. It doesn't matter. This podcast that I happened to listen to, the one example was this gentleman who was actually contemplating suicide, and his phone buzzed, and it was just somebody that said, hey, this was over in England, and they said, do you want to meet for a pint? Do you want to meet at the pub? And he looked at it and he was like, okay. And he went and he met him, and he did not commit suicide. And, it's not that he invited him to the pub or whatever. It's that he let him know, hey, I'm thinking of you. Want to get together? And that made a difference. So the episode was all about just reaching out, because letting people know that you're thinking of them can have great meaning. Would you agree with that, Katie? Like, as far as the words go?
Absolutely. So two thoughts there. You made me think of there's also a national maternal mental health hotline, which I'll share that information for you. So in addition to 988, there is a line that's dedicated for maternal mental health, which is a really, really awesome resource. That's available. And you could be a spouse, or, the grandmother calling, about your loved one. You don't have to be the one who is experiencing the symptoms. But I would say that, the simple text that I received from family members and friends of that they were thinking of me made so much of the difference. And it was really, I'll say that, admitting that I had a problem was through text. My sister often would reach out to me, and she just asked me, how are you doing? She asked me how I was doing for months, and I would just be like, oh, I'm doing good. So, we're doing this, we're doing, but one day I said, I don't think I'm doing okay. And I was able to reach out and say that I really think that I was having some postpartum depression and anxiety. And, she just said, she's like, I don't know what that feels like, but, is there a way, how can I help you? And, she didn't necessarily have all the tools or resources to offer me, but knowing that she wanted to help me, and, she doesn't live locally, she lives far away, but knowing that she was just a phone call away, just a text away, what just really, really helped. And I have a village. I have friends that checked on me, and I will say that there's no right there's really no right thing to say. But I know just throughout my life, living with depression and anxiety for the majority of my life, someone reaching out, someone saying they haven't, they've missed me at coffee, or they missed going out to dinner with me, or they were just thinking of me, has made all the difference. Because with depression, a lot of times you think that no one even knows that you exist, because you don't love yourself, and you just think, sometimes you think you'd be better off if you weren't here. So getting those messages, whether it be a text message, whether it be a phone call, an email, a private message, whatever it is, it really goes a long way. And I just think, if you're thinking of someone, let them know. And it doesn't have to be this novel. It just I send some text, hi, hey, just wanted to let you know I'm thinking of you. And that, and because I know those meant so much to me. It's just, you're not even really saying much at all, but you're just letting them know that they're thought of.
Yeah. And I agree. I think that is so important. I love those kind of texts myself. And you know how you feel when you get them. So it's like, reciprocate or think of, if, and a lot of times we do have that where we're busy, but someone will pop into our heads. And it's like, just kind of, if you can, if you're, not if you're driving or whatever, but if you can, just take that pause and just send that text so that they know. Because, especially in cases of someone who might be contemplating something serious or who might be in a really dark, low place, that could mean so much in that particular moment. Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to thank you again, Katie, so much for sharing your story and for also what you're doing, because I know that you're helping so many people and just make life lighter and brighter. And we will share in the show notes the information for that hotline. And I will share a link to NAMINEPA.org. But please know that, like I said, NAMI is national, so you could check it out. But again, I do want to thank you so much, Katie, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
So again, for those of you, again, if you're struggling, know that 988 is an option. And like I said, I will share what Katie mentioned for women who are pregnant, a separate hotline as well. And don't be afraid to reach out because you are definitely not alone. So I want to thank you, my listeners, for joining. Next week, I'm going to be talking with Kaylin and Melissa, who are two women here in Northeastern Pennsylvania who've accomplished something pretty great. They have the Wild Women NEPA. I don't want to call it an organization, but I'll say maybe a collaboration. And in August, they had the Wild Women NEPA Festival that I had the privilege and pleasure of being a facilitator at with Laughter Yoga. They had 1,000 women come out for this day. So I think it was pretty amazing. And they're going to be talking about the upcoming Winter Wellness Expo, December 10th in Kingston, where I will also be presenting Laughter Yoga. So I'm excited about that. The following week, we'll have my serial guest, Gab Bonesso, who's been on many times talking about her mental health, bipolar disorder, how she works through it with her stand-up comedy. She's an advocate, and we usually just like together and like to talk and just talk about pretty much anything and everything under the sun. So that will be coming up. So I hope you'll tune in. And again, I thank my guest, thank Katie today, and I thank my listeners as always. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.